What's up, guys? Welcome to the bonus session of Summit in the morning. How's everybody doing? You guys all have fun out last night? Everybody had a good time? Good, that's amazing. So I decided to do this summit, and I did it for many personal reasons is why I did it, why I've done this so soon. And I did this also on YouTube. So we're actually broadcasting some segments of this live on YouTube. We're actually live right now all over the world. Could you guys actually have a look at that camera back there and say, "What's up, world?" Say, "What's up, world?" What's up, world? So guys, basically I'm broadcasting this. I did this summit. Most of you guys in here paid $147. This would normally be an event well into $1,000 or thousands of dollars. I did this event dirt cheap, and I'm broadcasting this live because I know that a lot of people had a rough year, and I knew that Florida is wide open right now. We're doing this based out of Miami, and so this was a very, very personal thing for me, okay? I've lost a lot of friends specifically because of lockdown. Friends of mine and family members of mine are dead, and I did this in memory of them. They're not dead because of this other crap. They're dead because of lockdown. Okay, the mother of my kids, her mother died of cancer, couldn't get her cancer treatment, and had to rot at home, and literally had to die alone in a hospital in confusion because of this. And there's other friends of mine that have died from drug overdose, suicide. This has been an absolute nightmare. That's my opinion on it. I am not an expert. I am not an authority. I'm just a person with a personal anecdote and opinion. And that's why it was so important for me to do this. And that's why I wanted to broadcast this to the world, and I want to make this inexpensive for you guys. I love you guys. Things have got to change, and I think it is a revolutionary act to be out there, to be having fun, to love God, to love your family, to raise children. That's going to be the revolutionary act in the future, is being a good human being. Okay, one of the big principles in the Bible, it doesn't matter to me if you're Christian or not, one of the greatest principles in the Bible brought by Jesus, I don't care if you're Christian or not, it doesn't matter to me in the slightest, is the idea of not being what's called a virtue signaler. And what he's saying is, do good things, don't. Well, I kind of did just talk about it, but I went against what he said. But the point is, do good things, not to broadcast it, not to make other people think you're a good person, but so that you know you're a good person. That's between you and God, okay? And so he would say things like, I don't remember the exact quote, but it was like, don't let the left hand know what the right is doing, right? Or he'd say, you can tell people about the good things that you're doing, but that's all the reward that you're ever going to get. So I would challenge you, try doing good things for the world, not telling anybody about it, and just seeing that it's almost like this download. It's weird. It's a weird thing to say this so directly because it's a very personal thing, but it's almost like a download of spiritual energy. Whereas when you talk about it, you might get a little dopamine kick from virtue signaling, but you're not getting that download of spiritual energy. I feel like what's happened in society these days, everybody knows the truth, or almost everybody knows the truth full well, but they want to say, oh, I'm doing the good thing. Like they want to look like that as opposed to doing what they know is right. Anybody who can't see what's right at this point is absolutely blind. They need to wake up. They need to stop. Like, some people think to themselves, what is the truth? Is this accurate? Is this true? Other people think, is it okay to think this? That's a lot of people. Is it okay to think this? Will I fit in if I think this? This is biological, it's evolutionary, and we think to ourselves, is it okay to think this? We are living in a world where the number one skill set, back in the day, I would say it would be being somebody who joined the army and go fight for your country or even die for your country. That was the number one skill set. That's still maybe the number one skill set. But another one that's close in the running is being able to be in a room of 10,000 people and everybody, and someone says, does anybody have a problem with this? And nobody puts their hand up. Everybody deep down knows the truth, but nobody puts their hand up. And you're that one person who puts their hand up in a room of 10,000 people and says, hey, this is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. We all know it. Who's with me? And maybe one other person puts their hands up and says, it's true, this is wrong. And another person puts their hand up and says, this is wrong. And another person puts their hand up and says, this is wrong. I know this. I know the truth. The truth is in you. You know it. You know the truth. So don't be afraid to stand up and say, this is wrong, and to do something. And remember, anybody can act like a badass when there's no social penalty for saying that. But I've always admired the Martin Luther Kings or the Nelson Mandelas who will say something where there's a social cost to saying it because they stand up for the truth. And so that's something that in this day and age, there is so much to where if you don't go with what the group is saying, even though they all know it's wrong or most of them know it's wrong, there's a social penalty for that that's more severe now than ever. And we've all studied groupthink for years and years and what we've taught. And now all of a sudden we're seeing that groupthink that we've been teaching for nearly 20 years now, just shy of 20 years. We're seeing that manifesting in levels that we never thought possible. So we're here to have fun. I love my children. I love the world. I love our creator. I love all of you. I love anybody who did me wrong. I love everybody. And I think that the most beautiful thing that you could do in life is to see God's creation, witness it, engage it. Go travel. Go meet people and date people out this weekend. Have families someday. Be a good person. Okay, go out and do that, because there's going to be a lot of pressure in the coming decades to not do that, to be against having a family, to be against God, to be against doing what you know is right. Okay, why is it that whenever you're having these like kind of absurd social takeovers, the first thing they want to get rid of is Christianity? Because the number one principle taught by Jesus is to do what's actually right, even if it kills you. Do what's right, even if you die, because your soul is more important. I don't care if you're a Christian. That means nothing to me. I'm not here to talk about Christianity in the slightest. Maybe I'll mention it here or there, right? I also love guys like Eckhart Tolle. I love a lot of different spiritual books. I've read anything I can get my hands on, anything and everything. But what I've noticed is that idea that it doesn't matter what feels like it's right, what's going to happen. This life is short, guys. This life is short. So you don't have to agree with my truth. That's up to you. I'm not here to tell you my truth. But make a decision to try to seek the truth and realize that there's a great reward for doing what's right. And we can't always do what's right. We all make mistakes. I make mistakes. My friend Eli here makes mistakes. We all make mistakes. But make the effort to do the right thing. Be that person who in a 10,000 person room puts their hand up first and says, this is wrong. That's, in my view, is going to be the number one skill set in the coming years, okay? The world's about to change a lot. It's getting more information-based, and that's going to be the number one skill set. Can you guys make an agreement with me now and an agreement with yourselves that it's more important to look after what's in here and to do the right thing than just to do what's right in the eyes of other people, but to do the right thing? Can you guys make an agreement right now to try your best, even if you can't? Can you guys make an agreement to try your best to do the right thing? Can we agree on that? Yeah. Okay. Can we agree on that? Can we agree on that? Okay. And you're not always going to get a reward for it. Maybe that reward will come later, but you'll know that what you've done is right. So what we're going to do now is, this is a session that we're doing early in the morning for the early rise, right? In our culture, this is early rising because we've all been out till 7, 8 in the morning. So people are kind of stumbling in here and trickling in. And sometimes I like to bring friends in that maybe you've never even heard of, but that are rock stars within their niche, even though you've never heard of them in our niche, but they're rock stars within their niche, just to share their ideas. So I've got a lot of great friends in our industry and in the world. I'm really lucky. I'm really blessed. And one of my great friends is Eli Wide right here. And he's actually got a private Facebook. So if you like what you learn from here from Eli, he's just going to give some cool information. Go to his private Facebook. You apply to it. And it's a private Facebook group on sales, persuasion, and influence. And in this group, you have to apply to join it, but it's completely no charge. So you can just go join it. He actually will coach you for free in there and give all sorts of free information. So I'm going to put a link to that in the live video that we're broadcasting from this. So if you enjoy what you see here, go to his Facebook group, and you're part of a free group. You get a lot of free value. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about who Eli is, and I'm just going to have him share, and you're just going to enjoy this here as like a cool little bonus session before Jeff comes in pretty shortly. And he's just going to share what he has. So I'll tell you a little bit about Eli. He's my friend. We hang out. We kick it in LA a lot. He recently moved to Miami. Like the whole freaking world's moving to Miami right now. I saw Jamie Foxx out last night, Floyd Mayweather, Timberland, Chris Rock. Everybody's here in Miami right now, having fun, enjoying life. Have you guys been just having so much fun being here and having freedom and enjoying life here in Florida? Yeah. It's been just beautiful, you know? Yeah, it brings a tear to my eyes. Beautiful thing. So anyway, what we're going to get into, I'll introduce Eli, and he's going to share some ideas. Just a quick bonus session here in the morning, okay? And then Jeff and me will be up here right after. So Eli is actually Tony Robbins' #1 salesman. There's actually an award after Eli in Tony Robbins' organization. He has sold over $100 million, both on the phone and Tony's organization. He's done over 100 million sales. That impressed you guys? Okay, that means he's pushed over 100 million in product. It's, product, sales, information programs. And this guy, honestly, like we kick it in LA just socially. We don't even talk about this stuff that much. We just kind of kick it. We go to clubs. We're friends. We just joke around. We're like kind of idiots, right? Just have a fun time. I met him at like cryotherapy many years ago, and we were just kicking it. So he's a buddy of mine. But yeah, he's done over 100 million in sales. Tony Robbins' top salesman. He also has his own business. You can even learn about that inside that private Facebook group, okay, which we'll be linking to below, and you guys can check the link afterwards. Well, do you know the link by heart, or is it kind of like complicated to type in?
It's just elite level influence. If you search that on Facebook, it comes up, and it's a cheesy thing. The acronym is ELI. It's elite level.
How could you resist?
Yeah.
I would have done too, bro.
Yeah.
Eli, because Eli will hide. Elite level influence, okay? Yeah, he knows a lot about fitness. He was even featured as the sexy Santa in Times Square at one point. So he's been pretty jacked at different points, and he knows a lot about fitness too. So Eli's basically just going to talk about sales and persuasion. This is just a quick bonus session for anybody who happened to wake up a little bit early and kind of stumbled into Summit early. So I just like to bring in some different guest speakers. So could you guys give a hand to one of my good buddies, Eli? Yeah. Thank you, guys. I'll just let him rock into it. Anything you want to share? Got about an hour.
Yeah, I'm just going to stand up and talk. Everybody give it up for Owen. You know, it's fascinating, this realm of influence, pickup, dating, and all that stuff. And, you know, I have a lot of friends that are like, oh, I'm friends with this guy. And it's just like, I'm like, you have no idea who this man is and what he stands for and the principles that he lives by. Like, I'm honored to be your friend, buddy.
Thank you. Me too, man.
Appreciate you. Awesome. So kicking it off, some of you that are here heard me kind of yap a little bit about my story, but ultimately, I went to a Tony Robbins event in 2005, harassed the company until I got a job, and did whatever I could to get in the door. And I started working there, and we would be in a city for like 3-4 months, and I would talk to all the real estate companies, insurance companies, any basically commission-based organization to teach Tony Robbins principles about communication to get people to basically sell more. And I was there doing a sales presentation to salespeople. And so any kind of cheesy, felt, found, or anything that was like basic sales stuff, people had such a resistance to. And we had a script, and I was in my head, and I really suffered my first few months. But I was committed. I wanted to actually help people. And so I started studying everything I could on the science of NLP, influence, mindset, communication, anchoring, hypnosis, all these little things to help me be more effective. And, you know, about 6 months into it, I really hit my stride. If you asked anybody in Tony's company, who was the best person as far as pure speaking, they said me. And I got the opportunity. It was really kind of luck, but Tony's son, Jarek, who's an amazing, amazing guy, amazing speaker, he was like 22 at the time, and I was, I guess, 27, and he wanted to become a speaker. And so Tony said to his son, he's like, if you want to be good with people, you need to learn how to sell. It's one thing to go to a presentation and be a speaker and have people clap for you. But at the end of the day, people ultimately vote with their dollars. People are very nice and tell you did a really good job. They'll clap for you, but when people are invested in your conversation, they're invested in you, and they've seen some value in who you are and what you have to give, and they actually vote with their dollars, that's when you know you're getting good. So he said to his son, you need to live with Eli. You need to live with the top person, whoever that is, happened to be me. And so here I am. I lived for a year in New York City, then LA. I lived for about 2 years with Jarek. And whenever we would have an opportunity to go to a new city, Los Angeles, Florida, New York, wherever, we would call out. We didn't have assigned assistants, but the company would call out to a certain area, and we had territories, and they'd say, hey, we have 2 amazing speakers in your area. One's this guy, Eli. He kills it. He's awesome. He's going to do a good job for you. And the other one in your area is Tony Robbins' son. Who do you think everybody wanted? Of course. Like, give us him. He's going to be awesome. And I would go to these presentations because he would get the good meetings, and mine were banks, used car lots. It was like the worst people. They had no idea. They've never invested $1 in themselves. They don't care anything that I have to say. And so that's when I got really good. But I remember sitting at home, dealing with the rejection, feeling like things weren't fair, but I was so committed to my outcome, and I wasn't willing to stop until I became what I set out to be. And that was, as some of you guys that are here, knew that I wanted to actually partner with Tony, and I wanted to completely take over the sales for the organization. And so I got really, I was up at night studying all the things, and I remember just pushing myself over and over again to learn all the little nuances, and I broke through, and I worked for Tony for a few years, and at the top, I left the company. Here's where the story gets interesting. I moved back to LA, and I figured now with my new mindset, I wonder if I could start booking sales gigs. I booked everything, and I still didn't really have a good resume. There was this awesome thing, Owen alluded to it, so it's making me think of it. It was a Hunky Santa dance show. And I tried to get an audition for it, but I couldn't get an audition for it. And they also had a speaker, like an orator, and because I was a speaker, I tried to get the audition for the speaking part. I went in, they liked me, I influenced them, and I said, I actually want to get an audition to be like the main dance guy. They were like, do you have any dance experience? No. You've been like doing, I'm like, no. Acting? Like, not really. And they're like, okay. So I go to a cattle call. It's over 800 dudes, like the most ripped, like the lead Versace model, Abercrombie guy, some guys in famous TV shows, because they basically put you on the Today Show. They put a billboard of you in Times Square, New York. Your face is all over LA because it promotes shopping throughout the United States. So I go to this cattle call, 800 guys. I make the first cut, 800 down to 100, 100 down to 30, 30 down to the final 8, and it was televised. And it televised in Los Angeles news, which is not real news. It's like car chase, silicon boob thing, lip injections, and who's hunky Santa. It's like, LA's like that. That's news. It's not real news. And so we're on this thing.
As opposed to the real news now, but I catch his point. I catch his point.
Yeah, true. And so I go in there, and we had to like dance with a girl, but I was really competitive, so I took dance lessons, private dance lessons every day for 2 weeks going into it. You got to be in really good shape. I was pretty ripped, but not by far not the most in shape guy there. And then there was a third part, which was an interview. They asked you these really awkward questions to see how you would respond, because they wanted that person to be able to spend some time on camera connecting with people and not sound like a complete idiot. And so the first couple guys go in, and I remember I listened at the door to the questions that were asked. And I heard the responses from these dancers and models and actors. And I listened to the door the first time, guys in there for like 5-10 minutes, and I was like, whew. And then the second guy goes in, I listen to the door, and he's in there for about 4 minutes, pretty quick. And then he comes out. And this one guy was like, he was all nervous. He's like, you want to go in? I was like, I'll go. I was in there for almost an hour. And right before I went in, I'm going to win. But I took a moment to humble myself. And they asked me these really awkward questions, and I responded, and I told stories, and I influenced them. And they called me the next week. They said there were 3 rounds of voting, all unanimous for me. And so they put a billboard of me in Times Square in New York City. And then I took that picture that was like a billboard, this like sexy Santa thing, made it into a postcard. And I sent out like hundreds of these to every casting director, manager, agent in Los Angeles. I started working out at Equinox, which is like the sexy actor model gym. And I met like who's who in Hollywood, just connecting with people. And a lot of the success that you will have in your life, be it in dating or business or whatever, will come off relationships and connections and the ability to communicate in a way that gets people wanting to do business with you of some kind, wanting to engage with you. And so today is really about, what is that process?
Most of these guys, once they got the sexy Santa, would just post that somewhere and never leave their house and just wait for the train to come.
Yeah.
So
I don't
you guys
worry.
are like, wow, he was so motivated after that.
I did.
How many of you would just sit in your house for the next 10 years after you had that? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
So, yeah. I used it, and I became really even more fascinated, and with the acting and the scripts and all that stuff, and done fairly well, but I ended up getting really sick. I got a parasite, almost died, and I had to go through all my savings and everything and go to the hospital. I was really close with Tony's brother-in-law, Scott Humphrey, and called me one day. They flew me to the Date with Destiny, and they could see that I was just different. I was drained. I had lost like 60 pounds. I just felt like a different person. And so Tony basically saved my life. In 2010, I came back to work for the company. He had done like an intervention on me, and it was phenomenal. And we had this really amazing conversation, with just a small group of people. It was like 3 hours, us. And he said some things there, one of which I'm about to share with you, that has put millions of dollars in my pocket based on this one thing that he said. He said this one thing to me about influence with ourselves and other people that transformed the game of what it means to connect, what it means to inspire, what it means to sell someone, what it means to compel somebody to take an action that you want them to, but yet for their reasons. And so he said these things to me, and I decided to come back to the company because he told me I needed to. He says, there you are laying in bed. Focus on yourself. You need something bigger than you to inspire you to get out of bed. You're laying there focusing on your needs, your loss, your career, all these things. You're wallowing in your shit. He says you need something bigger than you. In order to be successful, you need the right strategies, you need to be hungry, and you need a vision bigger than yourself. What is that vision? You've lost it. And so I said, man, I'm gonna do it. And I came back to work for his company in 2010, came back March 2010. I worked half the week for Tony, and I laid in bed or a hospital bed the other half the week. But I still broke every sales record in the company, working 60% less and being sick. I had a really good coach. that helped with my mindset, helped with my body, where you store emotions in your body, your physiology. And he gave me all these exercises and he talked to me and all these things and held me to a very high standard. And so at the end of that year, Tony had created this award based on my performance, took me to Fiji for a week. And, Tony's coached every American president, even Trump, Obama, all these people, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Michael Jordan, all these people. And he was so kind, so sincere, so present with me. I asked him every stupid question. But he wasn't like, that was a dumb question. I asked him about the littlest things, certain interventions that I saw him do. I saw him in a room of 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people with a hostile audience that didn't want to be fucking pumped up, didn't want to be motivated. And I saw him within minutes turning around. I'd seen him go out into the audience and connect with somebody and do an intervention, turn around a suicide. And so when I got to sit down with him that day and I asked him about what he was actually doing, what he was focusing on inside of his mind, what are the tools of influence that can turn around a suicide? And he trained me in this and he became a mentor and he helped me a lot with it because I ultimately wanted to help people. Nobody ever, as a little kid says, I want to be a great salesperson, but I wanted to influence people. I wanted to have a voice and I wanted that voice to move people just like he had moved me. And so I asked him about what he was doing and I had this idea. I said, I wonder if I could use some of the same tools that he could use to turn around a suicide, to turn around a sale, to turn around a broken relationship, to turn myself around at times when I feel down. And it turns out I could. And I studied, I'm not going to mention any names, but a lot of the really famous sales trainers that are out there. You can see them on YouTube. They do big events. They do all these things. And I studied all that, and it didn't feel connected, didn't feel aligned. And I was like, rebuttals, and somebody says, I don't have money. Well, that's why you have to. It's just like, I was like, there has to be more than that. And so I got really into the science of why people do what they do, and how do I ultimately create that. And so fast forward over the last, so many years, I've done over 3,400 seminars on behalf of Tony. And just over the last 16 months, March 2019, I saw you right at the UPW event with Tony. I left the next week and I got rid of all my stuff. I was living in Beverly Hills, got rid of all my stuff except for one suitcase. And I was going to travel for 3 months, speak at all these events. I did a UPW in London with Tony, Success Resources, big seminar company, my client. I coached them. And then I went to Bali, all these events. And fast forward 16 months goes by, I'm still traveling and booking all these events, but I'm really tired. I go to visit my mom who moved to Florida about 2 years ago in Vero Beach. And then COVID hits, all my events get canceled. And I'm like, I'm stuck in Florida. I'd planned to move into Austin, but I was like, since I'm in Florida, I might as well stay here. And now here I am a year later. So that's why I'm here. That's why I left LA. But I partnered with some people and started doing these events online and teaching people how to sell. And all these companies the last few years, because now everybody's online. Self-development is like the third fastest growing industry in the world. And they're like, can you help us sell our products and services and listen to our calls? And a lot of it was shit. And so now I'm training companies on how to turn people around using the process that I learned from Tony. And so that's what we're about to get into today. Are you guys ready for it? Yeah. Awesome. And so about a year ago, last July, because COVID, everything was shut down, Tony did the first virtual event, about 23,000 people. And he asked me to do the sales presentation for the Business Mastery event. I did it, and it was about an hour or whatever. I was there, did 8 figures in sales in that hour. And so not all because of me and my presentation. Obviously, Tony has a brand and got the people there. But there are principles of communication, these frameworks of really understanding why people do what they do. And so really, really quick, I am going to go through a little bit of a slideshow just so you can see this. I don't know if you see this.
Course. He could talk for the next week on this, but we're going to do a crash course here together for our morning bonus session.
Time constraints, I just took a few slides and created a couple out of like a 3-day presentation that I do. So this is basically a Cliff's Notes. But over there to the left, that's Tony and I in Fiji. I mentioned that he took me there and asked him all these dumb questions, and there he is, probably wanting to put his hand over my face rather than my heart, just because I was asking him all these dumb questions. But
by the way, you guys recording, if you can catch some of those slides for the audience at home on YouTube, or if they're showing it at the back. Are we able to broadcast that? We're just learning how to live broadcast these seminars. Well, if you don't have it, then the 200 lens could point at the guy in the white T-shirt. Or no.
I'll be very descriptive.
Okay. Yes.
To the left, me and Tony in Fiji. In the middle, he had. When we would do some of these seminars, I would often fulfill 10% of the room. So 10% of the company's revenue through me, and it's a pretty big company. And so people always say, how do you get to be friends with Tony Robbins? How do you get him to coach you? You make anybody like 9 figures of money, they'll be your friend. And so it wasn't just the money, because Tony's got most of his money, that his income he gets comes from outside of his self-development company. He owns like 60 companies.
Well, yeah, that's the joke, right? Like I run a bunch of businesses outside of the seminars company as well. We even have a seminars company where we produce other people's seminars. Of course we do. But people always think that these big speakers, like the biggest speakers, are making all their money from self-help. No, you do self-help to get a brand and to reach higher quality people. And then you go coach celebrities and you coach top-end business people. You do $25,000 a call to people that have businesses that do hundreds of millions of dollars a year. So you do things like this. This is more like a branding thing, right? But people won't think that about, how many companies does Tony run at this point?
It's like 60. And
yeah.
Also, they have a financial company too that does a lot of it, but it's like 40 billion worth of revenue through everything that they do.
Doesn't mean you keep 40 billion, but the point is
teeny.
Like as a speaker, when you're older, like past your 40s, you probably built other revenue streams, but you do it because you love it. You're doing it because there's nothing that you'd rather be doing in the world. You coach because you love it, is the main point.
Yeah, 100%. Tony had taught me all these things. So there's me on the right. You might have seen some of the pictures. It's a bad picture, but there's me inside of that circular thing with like 20,000 people in Tony's new seminar. I want to show you this because this will kind of give some proof. The last month that I worked for Tony, just helping out a little bit, I was working part-time, half as much as everybody else as far as the speakers in the company. Every speaker there had the same script, same words, same product, same price point, talking to the same people. We would do these presentations. We all had the same everything, so our results should have been about the same. However, you can see here, there's the majority, from 130-ish to 198-ish, like about 200 high-ticket sales for everybody there, except for the guy at the top, who was working half as much. Not 200 high-ticket sales, but 680 high-ticket sales working half as much. How is that possible? With the same words, same script, same product, same price point. In what you guys are here for, you might go to a bar and there's lots of guys saying the same things to a girl, but they respond very differently to the one. What is it about that person that connects somebody? Go ahead, give it to me. Emotions, yeah. How do they make you feel? And as you guys told me earlier, why do people do what they do? Emotions. Logical reasons or emotional reasons. And so we're about to teach you how do we cultivate and how do we really understand those emotions on a different level. Also, I'm gonna read this to you. Remember what I said? When I connected with Tony that first time and he said this one thing to me, that was the power of influence, and it shifted my mindset in such a way, it shifted everything for me. And fortunately, I had recorded it on my phone, I transcribed it, and I read this one thing out loud to myself every single day before all my presentations, and it anchored me. It created an anchor for me. And do you guys know what an anchor is, by the way? Awesome, you should. An anchor is, you hear a certain song, you think of that high school dance, you smell a certain cologne or perfume, you think of that girl. There's anchors. And so how do you learn how to create anchors within yourself to compel you to feel something? Because you're gonna have days where maybe it's like to hop on the call. If you're like Owen here, or even myself, I've done thousands of seminars, you don't wake up every day like, yay, another seminar. But you have to be able to condition yourself to feel like it and bypass the mind. The mind's gonna fuck with you. The mind's gonna say, no, I don't wanna talk to the person. No, I'll do it later. The mind is gonna say, whatever, but you gotta say that's bullshit, and you gotta condition yourself to do the things just like Wim Hof. Gotta condition yourself to jump all in and take action, because that's where the growth is. Does it make sense? You guys follow me? Yeah. Awesome. So this is what Tony said to me, and it shifted me. He said, to influence someone, you must be connected to that person. You must not only understand them intellectually, because you can understand them and you can judge them. By the way, you can never influence somebody if they feel judged by you. You must understand and appreciate them. You must connect to them. Their needs, their wants, their desires, their fears. You got to step into their world without buying their story. That's the unique balance, to step into somebody's world and appreciate, but not buy their limitations. They've already done that to themselves. Our job as leaders is we must never buy their limits. They've already done that to themselves. If you buy their limits, you've added no value to their life. The added value you offer representing me and our potential partnership with these clients and customers is that we don't buy their limitation. I don't buy the limitation of how fucking long they can go without food, how late they can stay up, how fucking hard they can clap, how intense they can feel, or what they can achieve. And because I don't buy those limitations, and because they feel I care, and because I'm willing to go there first, I can influence them. And I was like, that's it at the core. Give it up for Tony Robbins. And I was like, that's it. To be able to step into somebody's world and have compassion and make them feel really understood and appreciated for their challenges, but not buy into their limitation, their story about, I don't have money, I don't have time, I can't do something. That's bullshit. Because that is a fixed mindset that will keep somebody from growing. And if you want somebody to buy your products or services, they've got to see that you are the bridge that connects them to a reality, and you've got to get them to feel these feelings that are going to make them do the behavior that you want.
Would you mind if I even add a tad to this too?
Please, yeah.
Guys, I want you to imagine Anthony Robbins back in the day. I mean, Jim Rohn, one of his mentors, was one of the guys who blazed the trail, right? And I believe that would have been in the 70s or 60s would be my understanding. But imagine being Tony Robbins before this kind of coaching was popular and everybody just thinking that what you're teaching is ridiculous, right? Like, oh, you can be the best you could be the best version of yourself, you can step up, you can build your dream life. Imagine being Anthony Robbins before Instagram, before Facebook, before YouTube, before this stuff was popularized, and him blazing the trail. That to me was Tony's, I mean, he has endless contributions, but the one that stands out just for me personally, and everybody would have their own, is that Tony Robbins popularized this idea that you can be more. And he had to get out there back in like the 70s and 80s. It was like a pretty dense energy just societally back then, you know, like the energy was just denser, right? Like people would just be in fistfights more often and angry more often. There was more, you know, denseness in the energy. And he was out there just beating the drum. Many of you would not be here right now or even thinking that something like my seminar or what Eli's doing right now is cool if it wasn't for Anthony Robbins. And I think it's important to realize these, like, do you remember I said earlier that it's not just about the example that I gave earlier? You're in a room of 10,000 people and the one person who puts their hand up and has a different vision. That was something that Tony had. He had his own mentors like Jim Rohn, RIP, but you know, Tony was the person who, he will go down in history. His legacy, in my view, will be the person who popularized that you can be more. He brought that to the masses, and all of us are really driving in the tire tracks of Anthony Robbins. So I hope that you guys can think of that and even think of what he's accomplished in your life. Could you guys give a hand for Tony Robbins? Because he's not present right now, but you know, that's something that he did, you know, and it's a powerful thing that he did.
Early on, challenging professional therapist, you know, that had been with their patients for 20 years and couldn't get a breakthrough. And Tony was like, I'll fix them in 20 minutes. And people were like, this is crazy. And he did it 100% of the time on camera. He said back behind the scenes, not all the time, but he learned in those circumstances. And now he believes that he could turn around anybody in any situation. And he's been doing that for almost 40 years now. I think 41 years he's been doing this. So he's had a lot of reps. But here's the thing earlier, and for those of you not here, I'm going to repeat it. 2 ways we can live our life. How many? 2. One is outside in, the other's inside out. And so he wasn't looking for validation, but how do you live inside out? Just like Owen was talking about, there's a mission, a person that's going to stand for something, and he had a mission bigger than his circumstances. And in those moments,
let's repeat this. Do as loud as you can for me here, okay? Loud as you can. The first way is what? Do you guys remember? It's outside in. Yell that out for me. Outside in, and even louder. What's the one that we want? Inside out. Good stuff. Good stuff.
What's going to fulfill you with that emotion? It's got to be bigger than the stimulus response world that we live in. Ding, 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 you know, lights on the phone, red notifications, all that stuff. And so we've got to break that hypnosis. We've got to break that conditioning and really be, you know, really living from this internal locus of control where we do things that feel aligned. And a lot of people, you know, you see them in the world today, you see them in business today, their words are here, their actions are here, their thoughts are scattered, and emotionally they're all over the place. You guys know what I mean? But when you have somebody who has this word, and you might want to write this down, congruency. Congruency. Congruency means alignment. It's when your words, your thoughts, your actions, your beliefs, your identity, all in alignment. And people can feel you. And the most successful people that have ever lived, whether it's, you know, Tony Robbins, in my opinion, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Mother Teresa, they've had this amazing power. And usually towards the end of their life, they say something exactly like this. They say, I thank God or the universe for the message that used me. They don't even say it was theirs. They say something came through me, but that power to influence, the power to have God or the universe or whatever come through you, those ideas, those insights, connecting with that infinite intelligence that only comes in alignment when you're like an antenna and all the things from what you say and what you do and what you believe. When you're really in alignment with that, your words have power in meaning and they affect people in a positive way, but you can't fake it. And deep down, other people, they might know that you fake it, but who knows that you're faking it most of all? Who knows? And so you got to do it for you more than anything else. And that's how you expand. We're going to expand that container. And that's why you guys are here. And so I want to share with you a little story about, how are we on time? We're good? Because I do want to provide some sales stuff for you. And there's a lot of the scripts. So I'm going to take you through my framework here today in just a little bit. But I want to teach you a little bit of the science of emotion and what's actually happening when you feel rejected, when you feel like the person's not responding back. And I'm going to walk through a process that we do on how to condition you to be more resilient in every area of your life without having to just jump into ice cold baths, but really condition yourself. And you being conditioned to the growth and the contribution and the bigger purpose will take you out of the little things when you're not getting the feedback that doesn't feel good in the moment. You're going to be connected to something higher if you choose to really take that journey. Does it make sense? Yes. All right, cool. And so, quick story. About 35 years ago now, there was a man, Captain Ron, living in Key West, Florida, not too far from here, and he heard about this lost treasure buried at sea. And he says, I'm going to find that shit. And he decided to take his wife, got a crew, got a boat, went out there, and they started looking for the treasure. A year goes by, 2 years goes by, 3, 4, 5, 7 years goes by, and everybody's losing their confidence, losing their certainty. They don't have a very strong belief based on what's been shown to them that the treasure's actually there. So his wife gets in a fight with him, and she leaves him. All the crew, he has not paid them in years, so they leave him. Everybody's making fun of him, but he's 100% certain. He knows that it's there, so he starts looking. He has so much conviction, so much certainty. Other people buy into that certainty, and he gets more investor money. A few years later, he gets another wife, gets more crew to work for him for free. 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, 15 years, 16 years, second wife leaves him. Everybody's left him. He's just a crazy person in Key West everybody's making fun of. 16 years, 17, 18 years. 22 years after his first day at sea, he's on a boat off of Key West in the Caribbean by himself and finds over $500 million worth of gold bullion. How did that happen? There were 3 beliefs. And by the way, what is a belief? For those of you guys who don't know this, we haven't talked about it yet. Who tell me, what is a belief? Yep. It could be, It's like, do I believe in gravity? That doesn't be blind, Yep. It could be, A belief is a feeling of absolute certainty. When you're 100% certain, what's your name here? Seth. Scale of 1 to 10, how certain are you tomorrow your name is going to be Seth? 100%. What are the chances it's going to be Susie? 0%. So you're 100% certain.
I'd say in this day and age, I would be
in this day and age?
Yeah.
You never know. You never know. But I often say to people, imagine if you were just as certain in your ability to be successful, just as certain in your ability to go out and connect with women. You would never doubt it. Imagine if you knew it, you were just as certain, just like you know your own name. It's unchanging, unwavering, unless you choose to change it. But you've labeled yourself in that way, and so you respond to that, and you don't respond to anything else. And so there were 3 beliefs, 3 feelings that allowed him to find that gold, and they're the 3 beliefs that must be conditioned inside of you. And the way you condition your certainty, it's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger that it gets. And you think about an athlete, you think about any kind of world-class leader, when they walk into a room, there's a certainty, there's a posture, there's a way of communicating, there's a way they move and the way they feel. They've conditioned themselves. It doesn't just happen overnight, but it comes from consistently doing things that challenge you, that don't feel good. And that's when you get that internal confidence. That's when you get that certainty. That's when you get that self-actualization. And we're going to talk today about how do we actually expand that container so we can fill ourselves up, so we can provide more for others, because it's not just about us, but how do we expand that in the realm of communication? And so there's 3 beliefs that made that possible. Belief number 1, and you want to write these down? He believed it was there. He believed it was there. You might think, well, maybe I get a date, or maybe I make some money from this thing. And you might get some rejection, and after a while, you're like, is it possible for me to find the gold in this relationship? Some of you are in sales. You might have a list of contacts, and somebody's like, you know what? If you call these 5,000 people, you're going to make $20,000, but you call the first 200 and there's like nothing. And then you might stop believing the gold there. I'm here to say there's gold in that list. There's gold in your Facebook. There's gold in your Instagram. There's gold in your relationships. There's gold out there tonight. Whatever your gold is, whether it's money, relationships, time, business, self-actualization, whatever that gold means for you, I'm here to say belief number 1, it is there. But the second belief is this, because a lot of you know, the reason that you're here, you know that your gold is there. But the second belief is this: you have to believe that you can find it. Belief number 2, you can find it. Well, there's gold out there in the dating realm, but I know that it's there, but maybe Owen can find it. Maybe this guy can find it. Maybe this good-looking guy can find it. Maybe this guy can find it because he's famous or has lots of money. I know there's gold, but could I find it? So you have to believe that it's there, but also that you can find it. And the third belief is this, and this is one I can't tell you that's true for you. And whenever I coach any of my clients, I have a conversation similar to this. I say, look, there's gold in you. I believe in you. I know that we can find the gold together. But the third belief is this, is that it's worth it. It's worth it. And I can't tell you if it's worth it. Whatever your gold is, the more rare that it is, the harder it'd be hard to find. If you want to get to the top, I always say this, the height of the pinnacle is determined by the breadth and the strength of the foundation. If you have a 2-story building, shallow foundation. And this is the foundation nobody sees. But a 50-story building, very different foundation. How high your income will go, how high your successful women will go. Your ability to ascend in life will be based upon the depth of your foundation, and that's the shit that nobody else sees. You're rewarded in public for what you practice in private. You're rewarded out there for what you do in here, how you show up in here, how you show up at home, what you read, what you do, the conversations with yourself. That's the foundation that we need to strengthen every single day, and the training never stops. Do you guys with me, yes or no? Yeah. And so belief number 1, the gold is there. Number 2, you can find it. But some days you're gonna say, is it worth it? And that's when the doubt creeps in. When I coach people, I say, yeah, there's gold in you. I can help you find it. Is it worth it? You have to tell me. You have to convince me, because I'm not gonna call you at 6 in the morning. I'm not gonna wipe your ass. I'm not gonna be your dad. I'm not gonna tell you to do the shit that you already know you need to do. And it's like, so do you really want this? Is it worth it to you? I can't make you want it more than you want it for yourself. And so that's the container that I always create in my coaching. So you have to really get aligned. You have to really, whatever it is you want in your life, whether it's money, success, fame, whatever it is, I'm here to say, yes, you can do it. There's other people out there doing it. There's people out there making 10 times more money than all of us, if it's money that you want. But they're not 10 times smarter. They're not working 10 times more hours. A lot of them, they do have a 10 times better process on how they condition their mind and emotions. And so that's what we're getting into. That's why we're here today. And so I'm going to skip over some of these things just for time's sake, but I want to teach you there's 4 levels of influence. I said the height of the pinnacle is determined by the breadth of the foundation, and you might want to write these down. Level 1 influence is how you influence yourself. That's the congruency. That's the alignment. That's your integrity. That's your keeping your word. That's you keeping your promises to yourself. How many of you have ever said you were going to do something, whether it's to get up in the morning, call this person, do the thing, make the money, and you made a big goal and you said you're going to do the thing and you didn't do it? Have we all done that before? How many of you have broken promises to yourself? We all have. And when I coach my clients sometimes, if somebody's like really fucked up their life and they've been really incongruent, they're doing drugs, partying, they're just doing all these things and they know they're messing up, I say, you have a conscious mind and an unconscious mind. We need to connect, we need to build trust back within yourself. And your mind, you say you're gonna do something and you've got like an internal 5-year-old child inside of you watching all of your moves. You saying one thing, doing something else, and so you've broken trust within yourself. How can people trust in you and have certainty in you when you don't even trust yourself? So I say start small. Say have a cup right here and say out loud, I'm gonna pick up that bottle. Pick it up. I'm gonna sit down this bottle. Set it down. Start small. There's an internal, like a 5-year-old child in you watching every one of your moves. And start with small things. Quit lying to yourself. The relationship with you must be strong. And so level 1 influence is all about how you really create that certainty within yourself, because as you communicate with somebody in a sales context specifically, there are 2 core emotions that you must transfer. What do you think they are? Anybody want to take a guess? What are the emotions that you must transfer within a sales conversation? Yes, sir. Certainty, number 1, 100%. Nathaniel? Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, buddy. Yes.
Excitement about the product or service.
Could be. It's a feeling, 100%. Yep. Trust. All of these are correct. Value, 100%. So what creates that? Yep. Urgency. Yeah, 100%. The 2 that we do inside of our process, and these are the 2 core ones. There's other ones as well. These are all right. But it's certainty and clarity. Certainty and clarity. A confused mind won't buy. We're like, well, I kind of get it, whatever, but certainty and clarity. And so we cannot give that we don't possess. I can't give you $1 unless I have $1. I can't give you confidence, certainty in a product unless I've got 100% in myself. That was my superpower when I was doing Tony's thing. When I was doing Tony's events, I had all this certainty because I had an experience. And I didn't want people to just buy a seminar to go to a seminar so I'd make some money. Of course I wanted to be number one. Of course I wanted to make money. Of course I wanted Tony to like Tony's validation. And I look up to the guy. But in that moment with these people, what really compelled them to me was my certainty. Now here's the thing. Tony Robbins has these events. Sometimes there's 10,000 people there, 20,000 people there. People go there, they're all pumped up. The second day, what happens is after the first day, you walk on fire, people have drank the Kool-Aid, they're like really, really into it. And the second day, you can get your money back. It's 100% money back guarantee. And do you think some people did not like the seminar? What do you think? People got physically burned. They walk on the fire. Tony's saying the word fuck every 12 seconds. A lot of people don't like that. But at the customer service booth on that second day, it meant nothing to me financially, but I believed in the event. And so at the customer service booth, all you had to do was turn in your book and your badge and give a reason why you wanted to leave. Simple, no questions asked, unless they talked to me. And I wasn't rewarded financially, but I believed in the event. And so I got every crying face, every person, I hate Tony Robbins, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. But my certainty overcame their doubt. And I asked them questions about their life and what they wanted and what drove them to come in the first place. And I would turn around a lot of those people. And that was like the training ground for me. I was like, if I can turn around, not somebody with the friendly eyes, but if I can turn around the person that is irate and angry and still get them to have an experience. And I can't tell you how many letters I have, how many people said, thank God you turned around my life. Thank God you turned me around. It was that moment that I went back in and they had an experience. And it's those difficult circumstances, those difficult conversations that build the most muscle. I once heard it said.
What I love too about what you said is, I'm guessing that was earlier in your career. Yeah, where you're kind of like early in your career there. And so he had a position that would be lower level, but he's still practicing. And this is what I see. I'll see somebody working, for example, at a parking lot, and I'm thinking, if I was working in a parking lot, not only would I be listening, I mean, this is a little bit off track, but you see the idea. Not only would I be listening to audible or educational trainings in my headphones in between every car, but every single person who came through, I try to put a smile on their face, or I try to get them laugh. If I worked at McDonald's, I would practice engaging with the customers. So wherever it is that you're at, right? He was just, manning a booth way early, many, many years ago at the start of his career, manning a booth. He didn't have to do that. He could have been what I like to call a clock puncher, and he just punches the clock, and he's like, oh, whatever, yeah, sure, here you go. His life would have felt easier. But you're not really tricking anybody. You're not getting away with anything. By him making the decision to use that as a chance to work that persuasion muscle, that later built into him doing all these sales that he's talking. He's done over $100 million in sales now. So you see that idea, right? No matter where you're at in life, you can practice this, okay? And by the way, another side point, remember he said it's about certainty and clarity. I caught those two correctly? Certainty and clarity. Imagine that tonight, you're out at the bar, you're out at the club, you're like, after party. Again, certainty, but also knowing where it is. I'll see someone who's like, after party. They're like, where? They're like, and then it ruins everything. Okay, so certainty, right? Not like after party, right? It's like after party, it's here, right? So there's certainty and clarity is what he's trying to get across to you.
Yeah, and this relates to certainty. It's on the next slide, but I'll just say this. There's 3 levels of certainty. First level of certainty would be like kind of uncertain. I don't know, kind of, that thing. Second level of certainty is like shooting fire cannons out of your butt. I'm the fucking best, rah, kind of thing. That's level 2. Third level of certainty is just resolve. Like, yeah, nothing to prove, not trying to get anything. It's like, I wouldn't be like, I can tie my shoes. I can prove I can tie my shoes. Look how good I can tie my shoes. It's like, yeah, I can talk to a person. We can have fun. It's not that big of a deal. Grounded, calm, centered, in control, but not trying to control. Certain, inside out, nothing to prove, nothing to hide, nothing to fear. People feel that. And so you have to be able to cultivate that. And for a while, for some of you, it might look like level 2 for a while, pushing through your own fears until you build that certainty, that muscle. And again, the more you use it, the stronger that it gets. And I heard this said a long time ago, your success in life will be proportionate to the amount of certainty you have in times of uncertainty. Everybody's freaking out about Corona, the economy, all these things. And somebody says, move, I'll handle it. They might not even say it verbally, but you feel it. Hey, I got this. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. We're gonna have a good time. It's not rah, 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 all this stuff. At times it can be, but you wanna be able to push that really high, condition yourself so you drop down into your core, into your center, and you operate from that place. Find your center, and then you move from your center. A lot of people move from their mind, they're having to do something. We want to operate from here, this internal stance. Does that make sense? Yeah? Awesome. So level 2 influence, you cultivate this energy, this certainty, this clarity for your life, your business, you know where you're going. And as it relates to level 2 influence, which is one-to-one, on the phone, talking to somebody, selling somebody, connecting with somebody, it's transferring that state. I often talk about this in a sales context. The process that I talk to is called quid pro quo. Does anybody know what that means in legal terms? What does it mean? Yeah, back and forth. What are you going to say, sir? A thing for a thing. Give a little to get a little. So often I'll be doing sales calls and I want to get people kind of emotional, kind of vulnerable in that place, and they're stonewalling me and they got nothing. Has anybody ever sold anything and somebody's just not going there with you, talking to a girl, not going there? I remember, very early in my career, I was talking to somebody on the phone and I was trying to get to sell them this thing and the conversation was going nowhere. They weren't even being resistant. They were just all over. And so I said, can I share something personal with you about myself? And I shared something and I told a little story, and then guess what? They got vulnerable. And so maybe it's fun the person wants. Give a little fun, give a little back. And so there's this energy exchange that can be really nice. Level 1 influence it's really about understanding that. Like this connection, this certainty, this clarity for our lives, and transferring that in this realm of one-to-one influence. And what I've really geeked out on over the years is selling from stages and selling off of events. And I've done thousands of these things all over the world. And so I've watched myself on video and gone into the language, all the things, all the story, all the things. And so I'm not selling anything here today, but I wanted to just kind of let you know the deeper meaning of all of that. Level 3 influence is where you move a room when you own a company. That's the key to really, I think, being successful in life. Anybody you admire or respect or who you would consider successful has influence, yeah? And they don't just do it one-on-one, they do it one-to-many. And so that's where I've geeked out over the years. And I think that's what you do if you really want to master your life, is get in front of people. And it won't be easy at first, but you'll cultivate that certainty through your experience, and then you can dominate. And if you do that long enough and you start teaching, just like Owen has, he's got videos, he's doing what we call level 4 influence, or you see they're legendary. That's what I mentioned earlier. Steve Jobs, Tony Robbins, Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King, the power in the presence after you're not even there. At Tony's events, he's not even there for over half the event. But the influence is still being felt based on the principles that he lived by. There was depth and repetition over time. That is what makes you really legendary. You guys follow me? Yep. And so every single day, you got to start with you. And so I'm going to go through some of these relatively quick. This is a quote that I read every day. I had all these things. I had my morning formula, and I had these principles that I would read every single morning. And one of them was this. And I think this is one of the things that once I really got this, not just as a soundbite, not just as some little anecdote, I really ingrained this and I really sat with this. And I remember thinking man, if I look this way, if I sound this way, or if I said all the fancy things, that would really help me. But I read this quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson, and it was this: it's who you are speaks so loudly, people can't even hear what you say. And I sat with myself a lot, who am I being? How am I reacting? What is the resiliency I have to stress and fear and the lack of clarity in my life? So I sat with a lot and I journaled a lot, and I went through every seminar you could imagine so that I could really understand that, not so I could get something, but so I could be something. Be something for myself, to be integrated, to be in integrity. And integrity means to be whole and complete and perfect. And I knew there were parts of myself that I was giving away. And if you've ever given your word to somebody, just you're giving a part of yourself away. And then if you keep your word, somebody says that person kept their word. You put something out into the world, it comes back and it makes you stronger. When it comes back to you, it expands who you are. And so I had to keep my word to myself and others all the time. And I find people keeping their, not keeping their word, giving parts of themselves away, and it's they diminish. And then when their words, again, because they've broken that trust with themselves, they're not doing the thing they said they were going to do. They don't trust themselves, and their words don't have power. I was man, I want to have the power. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to I want to do the thing. I want to be the thing. I want to have impact in my life. And so I want to make sure that I'm living inside out every single day. And so I heard this quote, and it meant everything to me. And then I already showed you my sales numbers, same script, same words, same product, same price point, me working half as much, 3.5 times as many sales. And in Tony's company, he believes that life should be competitive. Life should be like the Olympics. When you go to the Olympics, gold, you get the endorsements, you get everything, you can make a lot more money. you get the bigger opportunities. You coach companies like Salesforce, you get to have all those opportunities. Number 2, silver. 3rd, bronze. 4th, you get the memory you're there. You get nothing. And that's a lot like life. Fortunately for all of us, we don't have to be really fast or go to the Olympics. We can all, every single day, we can all get the gold in our lives. We can find the gold within ourselves. And we need to be able to cultivate it every single day. We got to know what that thing is that we're chasing every day, not just so we can get something, so we can be something. And so,
you guys give me a hand for that? You guys remember, if any of you guys ever saw the program, The Blueprint Decoded, that was the whole idea of what we brought to our community, which is that being attractive is not something you do, it's something you are. That was the entire premise of everything that we teach. And that doesn't mean there's not methods or to just scrap a method, but at a core, it's who you're being, and people can feel that coming from you. That was the kind of insight and influence we tried to have on our community. He's trying to have that on you here. Notice that the top salesman, that's his main philosophy. So you could see it in terms of being results-oriented. If you're a results-oriented person, build the foundation.
Awesome. And so you guys told me 2 reasons we do things, logical or emotion. Emotion is what drives people. And so let's get into the science of emotion. You're all here because of emotion that drove you. All behavior is preceded by an emotion. If a girl says yes to her and no to you, or a client says yes to her and no to you, there's a behavior, there's something happening, but there's an emotion driving that response. And so let's go at the extremes. Think of emotion like anger, or depression, or fear. If we took that emotion, let's say depression, there's a pattern, and another word for a pattern is a habit. It's an unconscious way of doing something we do over and over again, over and over again, over and over again. There's a pattern of focus. And so if somebody feels depressed, are they focused on the future? Are they focused on the present? Or are they focused on the past? They're focused on the past. So to feel depressed, you have to think about something that happened in the past, an event, and you attach loss, less, never. Because that happened, I'm less, this thing will never happen. So you have a pattern of focus.
Repeat that to you guys. Loss, less, never. Say that back. Loss, less, never. That you can recognize when you're delving into that.
Because that happened, I'm less, I have less, I am less, I've lost something, I've lost part of myself, I've lost an opportunity, I've lost this thing, this never thing's going to happen. You have a pattern of focus. And so what controls focus? Yep. What else? Emotion. Yeah. What controls focus? I'm doing it to you now. Think about this. Think about what did you have for breakfast this morning? Rice. Who eats rice for breakfast? Come on. What was the last time that you talked to your mom? What was the best vacation that you went on? What's the worst vacation that you went on? What was the time somebody lied to you? How did it make you feel? What happened? So what am I doing? I'm asking you questions. Questions control focus. I asked you 20 questions about the worst day of your life, and you'd probably feel like shit if you took the time to really go there and focus on it. I asked you 20 questions about the best day of your life. Who were you with? What inspired you? Who do you love? What makes you happy? And that's going to produce a different emotion. And you focus equals feeling. People have a pattern of focus. Phone ding, 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 ding. You know, it's like, and most people are scattered in their focus, and so they don't have the ability to concentrate. And so that's part of the reason they're not powerful. We got to condition our own focus every day. So you need to ask yourself empowering questions, direct your own mind where you want. What do I actually want in this situation? How do I become bigger than my circumstances? What do I do in the face of adversity? Ask yourself questions that put you in an empowered state. So first, before we influence anybody else, we got to learn how to influence ourselves with questions. And inside my program, I teach there's lots of questions in the sales context: connecting questions, background questions, probing questions, clarifying questions, transition questions, scaling questions, committing questions. There's a lot of questions that we've labeled to help people get more clarity inside of their sales conversations. However, you need to become really, really aware of the questions that you're asking yourself every single day, because for most of you, it's a pattern. We need to break the pattern and condition ourselves to direct our mind, therefore our energy at a different focus. And now whatever you focus on, though, this is the second part. Focus equals feeling, but whatever you focus on, whether it's what I'm saying right now, what you ate yesterday, something on your phone, whatever you focus on, you also have a pattern of meaning. You have a pattern of meaning. Language and meaning is the second part of the triad. By the way, this triad is kind of an oversimplified model from NLP that really understands what's happening inside of an emotion. The emotions of your prospects, or even in yourself, this triad, your internal state, based upon these 3 ingredients: One is focus. The second is language and meaning. Please write that down, language and meaning. And if you've been to any kind of self-development course, any kind of coaching, you've heard this statement. It's kind of cheesy, but it's so true. It's this. And you might want to write this down as well. Nothing has any meaning except for the meaning that you give it. So the way the communication is happening so fast, though, you might text somebody, they don't respond back. You might ask somebody for a sale, they say, I got to think about it. You have a pattern of meaning. What are you making that mean about them, about you, about the world, about opportunity? Because this happened, that means that person's an asshole, a bitch. This person's a buyers or liars type thing. We start to label people in a way that produces an emotion in us, and that becomes an agreement with ourselves in the world that affects our relationship to the world and people. Does that make sense? I know I said that kind of quick. So nothing has any meaning except for the meaning that you give it. We live in a stimulus response world. Animals, stimulus response, Pavlov's dog, ding the bell, salivate. But what separates us from animals is we have this mind, this conscious mind, where we become aware of our responses and say, is that moving us in the direction that we want? We get to choose how we want to respond. And once we choose, we can condition ourselves to respond in a way that is resourceful, even in times of uncertainty. We can become bigger if we condition our minds and emotions to move in the direction that we want, despite the feedback that we're getting from the world.
Guys, that's literally the key to everything that he just gave you. The highest level people recognize we have a physical intelligence and the way that we're responding by default, and that we can begin to curate our conscious mind and choose our responses consciously. And that doesn't mean that we have to ignore our feelings, but rather that we can get altitude from them, pull back and say, what is gonna be my relationship to that feeling, right? It's like, you might feel like going in some negative spiral. That doesn't mean never to feel sad, but you can pull back from it, not identify with it, right? Really, that's what Eckhart Tolle is saying. He's not saying you can never feel sad. He's saying don't identify with the sadness. Don't allow only the physical intelligence to be the only thing that runs you. You can pull back from it, disidentify from it, see it from a position of altitude, and then decide, hey, is that telling me to be sad in a way that makes sense? Okay, fine, I'll be sad. Or is it just some weird default program response that I don't even need to pay attention to, and there's a far more resourceful response? And the older that you get, the stronger your prefrontal cortex is gonna get, your willpower muscle, and the more that you listen to what he's telling you, it's basically what he's telling you is that you can keep building this like a muscle, and the more that you do this, the more success and happiness that you can get. That's literally the key to everything right there that he just gave you. Could you guys give him a hand for that? That's the key to like literally everything.
I mentioned earlier for the guys who are here, not on camera, but job for Tony Robbins, you perfect it, you do a thing. What is their response? No, I don't see superstar. And that's when the job interview begins. How do you respond to that? I've seen people, studs, good-looking guys, like, best-looking guys you ever seen, do a perfect presentation, and then it's like, nope, not here in Superstar. And these guys get angry and start crying. And we see little Carissa say the thing to her, boom, little fireball, confident, come on, just unscathed. And that's why she's truly a superstar. Put her through the ringer, but she was just like, we're like, all right, you're just like, okay, because she's the real deal. And so we're always going to be tested. And I think sales, pick up too, but I think sales, the ability, because now money's on the line, people vote with their dollars, it is one of the most spiritually transformative things that you can do to condition yourself in the world, to actually develop yourself as a leader, to every single day go out there, put something out there that you believe in with value, have people reject you, say no. You got to be able to condition yourself to be bigger than anything that could even happen to you or be said to you. That doesn't happen overnight. That's why it's a process. You guys make sense? Yes? Yes. Awesome. And so there's a pattern of meaning. When I went through that, that job interview and they said that to me, it meant something different for me. I was willing to fight for it. I was committed to it. And then there's a pattern of physiology. And so we do these exercises at Tony's events. Some of you guys have been there. This state, like you could ask yourself a negative question or a positive question, attach a meaning to it, but also there's this pattern of physiology, and that is actually the biggest way to shift somebody. When you guys are excited, you guys are all pumped up and moving around. Yes, sir, you have a question?
Louder.
My voice is shot, sorry. Can you repeat that sentence where you said to condition yourself to, I forgot what the last part was.
Condition yourself to be more resilient in the face of adversity. We're about to go into that. Okay. Awesome. And so the quickest way to change the way you feel is your physiology. And you guys will do it. We'll do it before we leave here, just because Owen will get us up and have some fun. But you think about somebody who's depressed or sad or lonely. They're like postures down, breathing shallow. They're moving in a certain way. kind of slow. But when you think about somebody really confident, shoulders back, energy up, breathing full, conditioning our physiology, you know, conditioning yourself to be more resilient. Part of it is your physiology. That's why I love stuff like Wim Hof. And it's on a further slide, but I'm just gonna break it down for you really quick. Actually, where's this? We're gonna go, and I quote Owen here. So one thing, we want to be able to fill ourselves up with energy, but I love that Owen said this to me a long time ago, and I actually was on a video that he said, and I freaking love this. We got to be able to kill, like really cultivate this energy inside of us, but you must kill the parasites that are draining your energy. Did you talk about this yet?
I did, yeah.
3 parasites: self-judgment fatigue, persona fatigue, trying to be like somebody else, decision fatigue. You know, decision fatigue. Should I talk to the girl? Should I not talk to the girl? Should I start the business? Should I not start the business? People in their mind going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And at the end of the day, they're exhausted and they've gone nowhere. Quit going back and forth. Just make a decision.
This whole journey in your mind, this like odyssey to the edge of the galaxy and back, you're just sitting there.
Yeah, it's like into the earth. And it's like you're just sitting there and then you're tired and then you don't have that energy. Owen turned me on to a really amazing book, Levels of Energy, Frederick Dodson. I love that book.
Levels of Energy is amazing.
It's amazing. It's like Power versus Force, but 1,000 times better, and with less of like a right or left wing. It's like, you know, that book is okay. This one's just so good. And how do you, like, really, everything's energy. Einstein said that, but to be energetic, to be full of energy. And you think about anybody successful, they have energy. They set their life in a way with people and circumstances and coming events, things that give them juice. And sometimes you have people, relationships, things in your past, shit that you say to yourself, patterns of focus, patterns of meaning that are just draining you. They're parasites. Just like indecision, fear, procrastination, so just all these little things. Like, just stop it. And it's easier said than done, and that's why you need to be in a community like this. So it's amazing you guys are here. But here's what it looks like. And so for those of you that cannot see this on the video, I want you to imagine this. Imagine this is the moon right here in one hand and the world in this hand. He's got the whole world in his hand. And so imagine you got the earth here and the moon here. If, let's say, the moon got smaller, it shrunk, would it be pulled further away or closer to the earth? Closer. Now, what if the earth shrank? Would the moon get closer or would it go further? Further. The gravitational pull. Remember we talked about certainty, conditioning your own triad? Somebody says something to you. So here's the fascinating thing. I started to train salespeople on what I was doing, and I listened to their calls and how they communicate, and I'd give them, they say, what do I say when they do spouse objection, or I gotta think about it, or I gotta pray to Jesus, or I gotta meditate on it? What do I say in that circumstance? And I'd tell them exactly what I said, and I'd tell them exactly how to handle it, and they wouldn't get the result. Remember we talked about the other Tony Robbins trainers, same words, same script, same everything. And they would get more resistance, and I was like, why is that? We're saying the same words. But words and communication, they talk about this in NLP, are 7% of communication. You know, then there's your tonality, your 55% your physiology, 38%-ish is your tonality. And so I was like, what are these things? And I really got into it. And so I want you to now imagine, remember that triad that we showed? Your pattern of focus, language, and meaning, your ability to cultivate certain emotions and condition them inside of yourself. And then you've got your prospect. You guys follow me? Now you've done a 20, 30-minute conversation with this prospect, with this girl, with this person, and you think it's going pretty good. And then you get resistance. You say, hey, do you want the thing? And they say, I got to think about it. They say no. They say maybe later. Or they don't say anything at all. They ignore you. And in that moment, there is a conditioned pattern of meaning, stimulus, response. And that response, energetically, for most people, isn't that resourceful. And so I started to notice this. When those words hit your nervous system, you have a response that can be conditioned and changed. And the response, for a lot of people, internally, that information comes in, affects them emotionally. They have a pattern of meaning. This means I just wasted time. This means this person's a bitch. This means that this person's a liar. This means that sales sucks. This means that pickup sucks. This means they make it mean something bad about themselves, about the person, or about the world. A negative pattern of meaning. Or they focus on, how am I gonna pay my bills? Am I ever gonna get laid? Like they have where their mind goes. And so I'd say, no, you need to say this. But it's happening so quick. So stimulus, they say, I gotta think about it. And I would tell the person the exact words to say back to overcome the objection. And they would say my words, but when it communicated out of their nervous system, because of their focus and the meaning, there was a change in their physiology. So they said the exact words. They said the perfect words to the other person, but they said them with tension and fear and anger and stress and frustration in their voice. And the prospect, the girl, the other person, they're not responding back to the words, they're responding back to the emotion, the energy in motion. They're responding to the energy. Ding, ding, ding. There's a tantric relationship that you have with your audience or your prospect or the girl, this outward energy and this response back, and it can be really nice, like a dance.
Do you guys remember the competitive versus collaborative frame? That's what this is talking about here. Everyone's your friend. Obviously, if someone, doesn't want to proceed with the direction that you're taking, you can be aware of how they feel, and, you never want to bug them or annoy them, but you also don't want to take things personally and let it start to drain you of energy.
Yeah. And so that dance, I love this analogy of a dance. When you're on a sales call or when you're with a girl, or physically dancing, when you first get on the dance floor, there's this level of, unconscious competence. You're just trying to have fun. You're waving your hands in the air like you don't care. Maybe you're self-conscious. Maybe you're just being weird. Maybe you're just awkward. Maybe you're just kind of standing there against the bar with your beer against your chest or whatever it is, trying to protect yourself. And so there's this thing, like you get on the dance floor, then you meet somebody and you want to dance with them. And then you're doing crazy and it just makes no sense. And somebody says, no. You need to learn the bachata. You need to learn the salsa. Not too many different dances at the same time. Otherwise, you're confused. You need to train on one discipline. You need to learn the steps. But you see these other people like Owen. You see these other people, amazing dancers. They're like spinning the girl and dropping their crotch and doing all the fancy things. Before you go spinning, what's that?
In a hypersensitive world, that could be misinterpreted.
Oh,
yes. Yeah, their own thing.
Their own crotch.
Yeah. And we'll focus
Jackson,
on the business side now. We'll focus on the business side. Yeah.
Okay. And so often you see somebody, could be in sales, could be watching Tony Robbins, could be somebody really advanced at sales, could be even Grant Cardone, one of these guys, and he's got like a big brand and he's a celebrity. If you do what he does, it's not going to work for you because he's leveraging his credibility. And if you don't have that, you do the same thing because he's not following the steps anymore. He's lost a little bit of that, in my opinion, because he's just selling based off of his reputation. So a lot of the skills are gone when you see some of these bigger names. Tony still has the skills. He can connect and he does all the things, in my opinion. But I think he's lost a little bit too because he's just so big and the events are so massive and there's fire shooting out of the stage and all that stuff and he's just... Before you walk into a club, you don't have fire shooting out of the stage and people shouting your name. And so you've got to learn the basic steps. First, you're all over the place. Then you learn the basic steps. And then you know how to go off script a little bit. Then you know how, if you're dancing with somebody, how to throw a little extra hip jab in there. So there's an evolution of it. But whether you're in the military or in any refined practice, there are standard operating procedures. You got to know the steps. You got to know the foundational principles of communication, foundational principles of taking people through a process. And then once you learn the foundational tools, then you can go off script a little bit. But first, you got to really master the steps. You got to master the foundation. You guys with me up? Yep. So what is that foundation? Awesome. Awesome. And so I went through some of this. These are, yes? Yep.
A lot more triangle, but there are also numbers, and it looks like the job is the bottom.
Yeah.
Does it have to, speaking about it, like that's the most rapid, right?
Yeah, that is a slide that I grabbed off Google, and I would have put the numbers differently, but at the same time, physiology is the most important. Like how you move, it doesn't matter, like if you feel like shit, you know what I mean? It's just it's really hard. So being like Owen, an NLP, they talk about having a physiology and a psychology of excellence. Hard to have a psychology of excellence if your physiology is all messed up. And so that is where you produce your emotions. And we often think, and I love, all the self-development stuff, mindset, push through, David Goggins. It's amazing. I mean, that guy's mindset is phenomenal. But the way that the neurology works, it's actually the 80-20. It's 80 up, 20 down. So your mind and body being connected, the mind does communicate with the body, but it's more the body communicating with the mind. And if you have fear, if you have trauma, if you have stress, I'm going to do it. And you have these emotions fighting with your mind. And so you've got to be able to really connect with that. And so I do put physiology first. I think it is the most important thing to feel. And as Eckhart Tolle says, and I know I've seen Owen talk about this in a video, even as you're connecting, as I'm connecting with you on stage, or I'm connecting with that audience, that my clients or a girl or whoever, I keep a little bit of my attention on the inside. I'm connected a little bit on the inside. And And I think, how does that feel to me? How does it feel to have my words vibrate in my body? Communication has to feel good. And if it feels awkward and I feel stressed and I feel tense, like, you're not going to do it. You know what I mean? It's like a lot of the way that we've been set up, you speak your mind, you say something like what Owen was saying. It's like you're saying, I'm Spartacus, like I'm going to do it. And the world, especially now, has a negative reaction to people speaking their minds. They're speaking the truth. And you're going to be conditioned. We're going to be like this social programming to not feel good about our truth. And that's not a good thing. And so to really like feel good, just the physiology of communicating, my voice, and I started working on that. I haven't worked on my voice as much as Owen, but as I would speak, I'd lose my voice too, and I learned how to send my voice all the way around the room and connect with people, or build up chi and energy in my body and send a point right into somebody. And playing with that and feeling that, the words and the vibration and energy and all that stuff, and changing my cadence and changing my tone and not being completely monotone and just talking to somebody like this, but really playing with voice and sound and sending a point to somebody. It can feel really good. And so the way you get good at it is to practice it.
You guys want to try right now, just go into your voice. By the way, Ibrahim, handle the corner over there, please. Go in your voice right now and just go, louder, go louder. 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 Loud as you can. Loud as you can. Feels good.
So this emotion that we transfer back and forth, I put these slides there, just kind of give you a visual representation of what happens with two people. There's this bouncing back and forth of this energy, these states back and forth. And we need to learn to condition our responses to challenge or adversity and be bigger than our circumstances. And so I'm about to take you through my sales framework, but and I'm just going to end with that, just so you can see, like, what are those actual steps in the dance of communication when you're on the phone with somebody and they're being resistant or whatever. It's your alignment with the steps. What are those steps? I have 6 phases of a sales call, but I put this in last minute because I thought it would be a disservice to not share with you one of the things that Tony shared with me when we went to Fiji. And then he took a small group of us, mainly it was just me and one other guy, and like the corporate team for Tony, the CEO, all these guys. And we did went to Vegas, we did fight training with the Navy SEALs, like gouging eyes and all these things. We shot machine guns all day. And then we just had a boys' day. And then we went, Tony's really good friends with Steve Wynn, who owns the Wynn Hotel in, a good portion of Vegas. He's got a private restaurant with four tables in it, like way underneath one of the hotels. And it was just such an epic experience. We had our own chef and people waiting on us, and just phenomenal experience. And Tony had me and this guy Lee observe other people at the tables and notice like their physiology and who was the leader and who was shifting the energy, and just observing people. And he did like a 3-hour kind of private lesson on something he calls postures, like how to posture. And so there's 3 postures that we communicate from. And my challenge with a lot of self-development speakers and all of that, and I've done it a bit here today because of, Owen's let me borrow his authority, but the first one is superior. Like, I'm superior, I'm so great, I'm doing all the things, I make all the money, I have all the girls, guys, houses, cars, like I'm famous and you're not, like I'm superior to you in some way. Now, as a speaker, I've got to have a little bit of that, otherwise you're like, why the fuck do I even listen to you? You know what I mean? So there's got to be a little of that. But I find that most speakers, and specifically the Tony Robbins speakers and all that, they postured too superior all the time. Like, hey, I'm so great, and you know, in order to really connect with your audience or a person, there's got to be that vulnerability. It could be in your tonality, it could be in your stories, could be something about you that connects you to you. So there's 3 postures, one superior, the other's equal. And so you know, when I talk to you guys or I talk to people, it's like, hey, we're all the same. Like I remember sitting there just like you guys, and that's real for me. Spend 80% of my time equal, best as I can when I'm with people. The third one is inferior. Inferior. Now, is it good to be inferior sometimes? Yes. I think of martial arts like jiu-jitsu. People think inferior is weak, but even in jiu-jitsu, like you can be on your back and you can kill somebody. And as you go on your back, people might lower their guard because they think that you're weak. But if you know the moves, you can shift some things very quickly, whether it's wrestling, jiu-jitsu, or communication. And so I remember Tony explained this, and then hopefully because this is on video, I won't be bastardized for saying this, but
And just remember that we live in on a platform live now that they tell you how to think and what to say.
Yeah.
So if it's something you're not allowed to say, this will instantly be shut down. They'll stop you from saying anything.
But
okay.
So Tony taught us this, and a couple weeks later, I was listening to a very old power talk of Tony Robbins interviewing one of his mentors, Jay Abraham. You guys know who he is? Whenever they interview Jay Abraham, he's like one of the most brilliant marketing minds in the world. But whenever they do interviews with him on a stage, they have to have somebody on stage with him because he just rambles and kind of makes no sense, the majority of what he says. And
because he's so smart that he can't, his thoughts are so grand, he can't lock in on something. It's pretty powerful, but it's like, it's hard to follow.
The place, and it's just hard. And I've seen some other speakers he was with be very rude to him. They're like, get to it and be quite mean to him. So it's fascinating. I was in LA at an event one time that happened. I thought it was fascinating. But as I was listening to this interview between Tony and Jay, Jay goes off on a tangent. And Tony goes, listen to me, Jay. And he said it with a tone of voice superior, kind of like, shut the fuck up. Listen to me, Jay. It's like throwing a punch superior, like, listen to me, Jay. And then immediately, the other person's going to punch back. So imagine ducking that punch, knowing that it's coming back. Listen to me, Jay. The great thing about you is, what I really admire about you is inferior. What you're so smart in doing. I compliment people a lot, and it's sincere for me. I really do think people are amazing. Listen to me, Jay. The great thing about you is, you're so smart. You've done all these things. However, what we, equal, really want to know, how we really connect with you, is this, this, and this. And so I guess the real question is, and then redirected him with a question. Changed his focus, attached a meaning to the focus that he wanted to have, and began to dance in that communication and took him to the outcome that Tony had predetermined where he wanted to take Jay. So best time to look at your map is before you go into the woods. The best time to really understand the process of communication is before you get into the communication. And so what I'm about to show you is my map that I produced 9 figures in sales off of, mostly off the phone. The dance, the 6 phases that I take people through. It'll be a general overview. It takes a lot of time to really master this, but I want to at least let you understand what are some of those things. And I believe not so much in scripts. Scripts can be great, but you can have guesswork, hard work, or a framework. A framework is a simplified process because life doesn't follow a script, a step-by-step process that will help you get people compelled to take action at the end of your conversation. And so these are those 6 phases, and there's some slides. Are you guys ready for it? Yeah! Awesome. And so I call it the equal 80, because I try to spend 80% of my time equal, but I've had times too where I got introduced on a stage and they had really pumped me up. Eli's done all these amazing things, and the audience was like kind of like this after they pumped me up so much. And I could have been like, yeah, I've done all these things, and people would have been like, yeah, you've done them, but you're kind of a douche. And so I'd come out at some of those seminars, especially like in a corporate setting, and I'd say, yeah, I just wasn't too long. I was sitting right there, and half the time I don't know what I'm doing, but I figured out this one thing. And even look at my physiology, just like this, not, hey, listen to me, like my physiology was like, yeah, I just kind of figured out these things in theory in my physiology, and that kept the audience connected to me so they didn't put up a wall, because especially when you talk to really successful people, and I was like, this Tony Robbins, really successful guy, all these things, but I'm talking to corporations sometimes where people are like 50, 60 years old. They've got way more business experience than me. And they're kind of like, they're hearing my introduction, and I can see them kind of like, oh yeah, fuck this guy. I'm gonna challenge the fuck out of him. And I don't want to have this dick swinging match back and forth for 3 days or whatever I'm there. So I'll give them a lot of compliments, and I'll say, I admire you guys for being here. A lot I could learn about you, I'm sure. However, I want to provide value, so it's okay with you. Permission to reveal, permission to share, permission to give. And so the audience says yes, and they give me permission to put them in pain, permission to ask them questions, permission to take them further. And so they are always the one compelling things forward, so they feel empowered.
Yeah, guys, the two keys here to add to this are that we get dopamine from feeling like we're winning. So for a lot of people, that dopamine structure is very, very fragile. And they always need to feel like they're number one. And if they don't feel like they're number one, their dopamine crashes. So they found a way to pump their dopamine to the point that they can function well in life or even do very well in life, but they always need to put other people down and to raise themselves up in order to continue to feel that way. So then if you come in there and you're really confident, they're immediately going to start to get threatened. They're going to start, it goes away from the information that you're trying to relay to them, and it becomes this dopamine preservation contest where they need to alter the dynamic back so they can get their dopamine back. If you've ever seen people who use cocaine, they keep snorting down cocaine, right? I think there's some joke like, it's almost like worse, you know the whole like Ruffles bet you can't eat just one thing? With cocaine, like there's no like, you know, night of partying and there's half a bag of Coke left. Like it's always gone because they keep doing it to get dopamine. I've actually never done it, but you know, that's my understanding of it. And I've known people that have done, that's basically what they say. So people start losing dopamine. If you come in a little bit too high, that can be an issue. Also, people are addicted to negative energy and conflict. So what they're doing is they're going through their day and their body is so addicted to cortisol and conflict that they're looking for things. They're actively seeking things out in the day, not knowing they're doing it being the key, not knowing they're doing it, seeking out some kind of conflict dance partner who they can then to start to beef with and pump their cortisol. So, you know, that's why you got to be careful. Like, don't, like, say in a romantic relationship, don't be argumentative because you'll attract people that love to argue. Or people will try to poke at you and try to argue with you. And you've got to show, like, you're not going to get an argument out of me. Feel free to keep doing that. You're not going to get an argument out of me. And you look stupid to everybody around who's seeing you doing that, but I love you. And just stay in that frame. So what he's showing you, again, is an I'm okay, you're okay communication, or even saying, like, before any infield training that I do, I always say, one of the first things that I say is I say, listen up. All of you here are experts in your own jobs. All of you here know things that I don't know. All of you here, I could be paying to take your course. But in this experiencer this weekend, we're going to do a role play where I'm just role playing as a teacher because you want me to. So remember this, that when I'm teaching you, I'm your bitch. And I just say that, right? And that's for those like CEOs that are used to always being in control. And I go, remember, you know, when I show you what you're doing wrong, I'm your bitch. And they're like, yeah, I could feel that, right? So I'll be like, listen, we got to work on this. Remember, I'm your bitch. And they're like, okay. You know, right? And so that's like that's something that can be very powerful. And that's what he's trying to get across here, but in like an ongoing communication. And you can see that right in his communication style as he's communicating to you now.
You know, we said there's two things before the video started, two things that you really need to master that doesn't come overnight: sensory acuity and behavioral flexibility. Acute sensitivity, am I too much, too little, whatever, where's the balance here? Am I standing too close? Do I have eye contact? Are people disinterested? How do I have that acute sensitivity and change my behavior to help me connect with somebody and guide them towards my outcome? Does it make sense? Three things that I connect with before I get on any stage. One is a belief, a feeling of certainty about why I'm there. And like I said, I've gone to events where people did not want to hear what I had to say. What was it? I've had events where it was very, very hostile, and I had to turn that around. But I knew they were trying to challenge my certainty, and I'd lean into those circumstances because I have this internal guidance that when two people meet, or an audience, two people when they meet, or an audience and a person, the person that is more certain will influence the other person. So I have a belief that has been conditioned. I believe I have something worth you hearing. I believe I have something that can make an impact in your life. I believe I'm funny. Even if I'm not, you know, I believe that I'm goofy. I believe that people like me. Even when people don't like me, I still believe that they are going to like me. And I've talked to audiences where they clearly did not like me, but I was like, man, wait till we spend some time together. This person's going to like me, you know? And they're like, I don't have, you know what I have to say. And I'm like, this person really needs to hear what I have to say. And my certainty would overcome their doubt. That was my mantra. My certainty overcomes their doubt. And then when I got really good at sales, remember we talked to moon and the earth? I would expand my certainty and I would shrink their moon. How do you shrink somebody's confidence? How do you shrink them? I could ask you 100 questions about something you did one day. I could ask you a lot of questions and you would start to doubt yourself. A lot of you start questioning yourself. How do I look? How do I sound? And you question something too much, it begins to shrink. You guys follow me?
Yes.
And so we need to make sure that we ask ourselves a question in a resourceful way that expands us, doesn't shut us down. And so there's 3 things that I focus on. One is my belief about why I'm here, belief about who you are, a belief about how this content can possibly have an impact on your life, belief that we're gonna have fun, so I feel good about doing it. So there's beliefs that guide me. Second thing is, we talked about it, is my physiology. Making sure my physiology feels good, I stretch a little bit, feel connected to my body, make sure that I'm here, and make sure I've got energy in my body. And then the third thing is an outcome. Where am I taking these people? Where are we going? You know, and the fourth thing I focus on, and I barely even focus on it, is rapport. Most people get on stage and like, how do I connect with the audience? How do I connect with this girl? But they're connecting for the sake of connecting, and they've got nothing to connect to. And so I fill myself up with intention in my life. I know where I'm going with my life. I know where I'm going in this day. I know where I'm going tonight. I've got clarity. I've got a physiology I'm connected to, and so I've got a capacity to give something. And if I'm only trying to connect with people and get a rapport so they like me, it's fucking weak. It's pathetic, and people feel that. They're like, oh, this guy, you know, I got this girl's number and something like I'm making her the mission. Like, oh, that was the thing. You know, I'm filled up with so much more. And if we have a connection, that's great. If I have a connection with the audience, that's great. But the reason they connect with me is not because I'm trying to connect with them. The reason they might connect is because they see value. And they don't see value unless I see that in myself, unless I've gone through the trial. And so that's why we do the thing. Does it make sense, yeah? Awesome. And so really, really quick, I did want to touch on this slide. Why do people do what they do? Tony had come up with this. I think it's fascinating, and I've, of course, evolved it for the sales. And even inside of the sales pitch, the offer presentation, I customize the offer of what I'm selling based on what that person's needs are, which isn't easy to do, but I'm gonna give you some examples. But there's 6 human needs. I'm gonna go through them really quick. Certainty, confidence, solid, like this is safe. I'm certain that this stage isn't gonna fall apart. Otherwise, I'd be freaking out. I'd be like, oh my God, like, you know, and I would move differently if I didn't have certainty in this. And so the way you move, you got to generate the certainty. It is a human need. Otherwise, you're all over the place. But the complete opposite is a need for uncertainty, adventure. And then the next 2, significance, to feel special, connection and love, to connect with somebody, and then growth and contribution. Now, the first 4, needs of the ego, certainty, uncertainty, significance, connection. Last 2, needs of the spirit, to grow. And if things aren't growing, what are they doing? Dying. And it doesn't mean for you, it doesn't mean you're like, if you're not growing in your life, doesn't mean that you're gonna die tomorrow. It's like if you're not growing, you don't feel alive. And the first time you kissed a girl, first time you text somebody, first time you closed a deal, made some money, whatever, there was an aliveness inside of you. And I know right now you've got some of that, but would it be okay if you had even more of that, yeah? Yes. A sense of growth, you know? Progress is what equals happiness. There are people that are billionaires and literally kill themselves. They don't feel alive. And so what's gonna make you feel alive is a little bit different for all of us, and the only reason that we grow and we push through things is so that we have something to contribute. And things in life either contribute or they're eliminated. And when you do contribute beyond yourself consistently to your family, to your community, to your company, to other people, you do that consistently, you get to have this amazing feeling like your life matters. What I do matters because of what I contribute. And that gives you back a confidence that no amount of like pumping yourself up can do, but when you're contributing beyond yourself and you know you're making a difference, that's when the really juice, that's when that energy just comes over you. And so there's these needs, and how does that really relate to pickup? How does that relate to connecting with people? The top 2, so out of those 6 needs, the top 2 are called somebody's driving force, and they change day to day. They change in the moment, but we do have patterns. And so when somebody goes out to party, they're usually looking for a little bit of uncertainty, yeah? They'd be bored. And so do you communicate in a way where you have certainty in yourself, you seem that you're fun, you're able to make a connection, and you do it in a way that's unique and different? We're all looking for these needs. And so how do you give people what they want, but also what they need? You got to understand what really drives people. And I could spend a whole entire day on these, but these are the core that I really want you to understand. And so as we're communicating, we focus on ourselves a bit, we make sure we have that foundation. And then the second principle that's on these slides too, I just want you to write this down. Write down the letters H-I-L-A. H-I-L-A. And I have all these analogies, but for time's sake, I want to keep it tight. H-I-L-A, it stands for high intention, low attachment. High intention for where we're going tonight, high intention to connect, but low attachment. Neediness is creepiness, and so when in doubt, lean out.
Remember, guys, intent plus freedom from outcome. Remember that, guys?
It's like this guy's thought this stuff before.
Because everybody who does this for a long time starts coming to similar conclusions. They'll have different phrasing for it. Like I remember when I wrote the blueprint, I thought that I'd like reinvented the freaking wheel. And then as I started reading all this stuff, I realized like I thought I invented RAS. I called it a value magnet because I could see RAS bearing out in the field. Then I found out about reticular activation systems. So that's the beauty of it. I love meeting other teachers or hanging out with other teachers because we find all these commonalities.
Yeah, so there's 6 phases of the call. There's initial connection, rapport, all that stuff. I'm honestly not big on rapport. The more that I've listened to calls and all that, and sales calls and people talking about time they went to Wisconsin and cats and dogs and things like that and just bullshit for 20 minutes, I've seen that it actually kills sales. It actually kills connection because people lose respect and people.
Funny that you mentioned that. Because actually in our community, what we found was back in the day, like 2003, people would talk a lot about mirroring and rapport. And later, some of our founders came in and said, don't worry about rapport, just lead. And it'll get it to where you're leading so much that other people seek rapport with you. If you're seeking rapport with them too much, they're leading the frame. If you're leading the frame with certainty, then what happens, they start to actually seek rapport with you. It's very, very powerful. We call that the buyer-seller dynamic.
It's such a catch-22 because we're there to get rapport, trying to connect. But people like people who are like how they want to be. And nobody wants to be like
Say that again, that's really key.
People like people who are like how they want to be. Fun, energetic.
Yeah,
certain,
say
confident.
that with me because you've got to remember that. People like people
who are
say it again. People like people who are like how they want to be. It's a mouthful. That's not a catchphrase for a seminar, right? Like, yes, but it's important. Let's say it again. People like people who are how they want to be. I think we messed up. You get the idea?
Yes.
Okay?
Good.
So keep that in mind.
Yeah. And nobody, like if you're trying to get rapport with somebody and you're trying to connect with somebody just for no reason, nobody likes a person like that. So as you're trying to get somebody to like you, the catch-22 is people will automatically not like you for trying to like them. So unless they're really low status people. Like people are just like, oh, you gave me some attention. The pretty girl isn't, everybody's trying to get her attention. The big prospect, the big client, the person that has millions of dollars, it's a different level. And if you master the higher level, these become really easy. Makes sense? Yeah? And so I said there's 2 core emotions that we have to transfer. You guys said it. The first one is certainty, and the other is what? Clarity. No, not for the needs, but to communicate, thank you. But inside of the sales presentation, so the way that I did it, there's 6 phases. There's an opening phase, or a connection phase, and how we create connection. I'm going to talk about it very briefly, and then because I didn't even do much of it here, I did a little bit because you guys were here with me.
You know what's cool is as we wrap, they can go to your free group. So some people are just logging on live now. What is the name of your free group on Facebook? It's a private group, and you can just apply to get in. It's completely for free. It's on Facebook. It's a badass group. What's the name of your group again for people just logging on?
Elite Level Influence.
Okay, so guys, as soon as you guys finish here, and if you're at home watching this, go to Facebook. Go to Elite Level Influence in the Facebook groups, and it's completely free to join. It's a private group, ton of value in there, and you'll even go even deeper. We're going to wrap this speech soon anyway, but you guys get the idea. Just go to that group like 100% for sure. Can you guys all promise that you'll go into this group and join up in his group? Can you guys give him a hand for his free group that he runs?
How much more time?
Like 5 minutes, 5 minutes.
5 minutes? 5 minutes, guys. We're going to crank. So there's these 6 phases of the call. There's the connecting phase, the discovery phase, transition, presentation, offer or commitment stage, and then an objection handling stage. So 80% of the call is done in that discovery phase, that engagement stage. So we open, and then we find out why they're here. And I found as we went through all these calls, people would get to the end and there'd be some objections. And whenever people buy sales courses, they usually go to the end and they're like, what's the objection handling? Usually it's because of their own, they don't want to be rejected. And so like, I'm gonna master this first so I can crush the objection. Jordan Belfort, we did an event together a couple years ago. He's like, get the objections out first and then crush them. I was like, why set people up for resistance? Would it be better to handle rejection or handle objections, or would it be better to prevent them? Prevent. So I want you to imagine that, let's say right now, let's say that behind each one of you, there are 10 open doors behind you, and there are about that, not all open. But imagine you have 10 outs, and I have one closed door behind me, and my offer is on the other side, my coaching is on the other side, my service is on the other side. You can't see it. I have to build enough trust and connection with me and put you in enough uncertainty about what you're currently doing that you get very curious about what's on that side. But I also know you have 10 outs, 10 open doors. And so I call these the 10 clarities. spouse objection, don't have the money, cost of inaction, money, no clear problem, no clear goal. So we ask questions in a way that sets people up where they start closing those doors naturally. And then by the time we get to the end of the conversation, there's only one logical place they can go because they've closed those doors. And a little bit of objection to handling does happen, but I remind them and realign them with what they said. Okay, so you're saying this, I get that. However, I want to remind you, you just said this, this, and this, and you were experiencing this pain and this challenge. I just want to realign you with that. And so we'll loop back in and we'll do some things, but I want you to at least see the dance. And if you go inside my group, it's there, or I have people messaging as me. You can send me a message.
What's the name of his group again? What's the name of his group on Facebook? What's the name of his group on Facebook?
Elite Level Influence.
What's the name of his group on Facebook?
Elite Level Influence.
Okay, go hop on there right after this. Go jump on.
ELI.
If you're at home, go jump on.
Elite Level Influence, it stands for Eli. Cheesy, I know. So there's a
no
PDF.
way I can resist that.
Yeah, there's a PDF. I'll send it to you. By the way, I've done all this stuff. We do coaching. I have zero marketing. I've never done any marketing, and all my programs are always full based on word of mouth. So I do start marketing in a week, thanks to Marcel. It's Owen saying like do these things. So we start YouTube ads soon. So I will have like an actual channel. But if you see my stuff, it's awful. It looks awful, but the content's actually good. So we're just now cleaning it up. And so what I'll give you is a look at a PDF that has the structure, the dance steps, the basic steps you need to go, and then all the tools around there to realign people. So these 10 clarities, pain, cost of inaction, destination, goal, here's what they are. But basically there's an opening phase, which is how you connect. You put the focus on them, not on yourself. You use utilization. It's using things in the environment, setting the agenda, creating a frame around the call, putting the focus on them. It could sound something like this. Hey, John, really this call is just for me to be able to ask you some questions to find out if what we're doing here could even possibly help you. Notice words like possibly, might be, not, hey, we're the best and we're number one and we can definitely help you. That creates resistance. Might be, possibly, kinda, sorta. If you think this might be able to help you, okay, well, why do you think that it could? Somebody will respond to my ad, or we have it for a company. Okay, John, I should probably start off by asking, have you already found a way to improve your sales, or is that something you're still looking to do? And what do you think they always say? I'm still looking. They tell me, but more importantly, who do they tell? They tell themselves. And they tell themselves over and over and over again how much they need my process. Selling isn't telling. We get people to persuade themselves with their own words, and then we're able to kind of use that, not against them, but for them to compel them to action. But they've told themselves over and over again what it would mean to them financially, emotionally, what it would mean to them. So that's the process of influence, setting the game up again, not to tell them, but to get them to tell themselves. And so then we get into what I call these 10 clarities. There they are. And I can send you this entire thing and we have questions, but clear problem. You have to be able to establish trust or re-engage people with stories until you build that bond. And these are in no order because conversations don't go in order. Cost of inaction, that's the one most people lose or they don't use on their sales call. Okay, John, I understand, but can I ask you a question? And I almost hate to even ask this, but what's going to happen if nothing changes? Like for you guys, what happens if you go to this event all weekend and you go home and you go right back to the same old patterns because you don't have the support? What's going to happen? Say the same. And are you willing to settle for that? No. Okay, so you're willing to do something now then. So I'm getting a commitment that they're not willing to settle. So even though we've had this great talk, but what's going to happen if you just go back into that same pattern? So they're going to tell me that they're really committed. So it's kind of like a double close even before we get to the offer. And so are they coachable? We have something called the buying pocket. So really quick, this is a powerful concept. We have something called a buying pocket. So we want people in the middle. At one end of the pocket, somebody talks to you and they're like, yeah, but I think I can get there on my own. So they're overconfident. Somebody else, I'm like, what are your goals?
Oh, and by the way, the hard part too is that and this is what I deal with, Eli deals with this, anybody who does sales deals with this, is that they're not likely to make it on their own. And my blood starts boiling because I'm looking at the person lying to themselves and I just want to scream, there's no chance. And I've got to be like, and I've got to breathe through it because otherwise I look arrogant or as having an agenda. And I've got to breathe through that and go, okay, and then talk in the manner that he's showing you here, right? So it's like, so as you're seeing the person lying to themselves and rationalizing, you have to breathe through that and understand that you've got to meet them where they're at.
Also, in the process of influence, results in life come from actions or lack of action. Action comes from a decision, always. Decisions come from thoughts and feelings, and all thoughts and feelings are produced by a belief. And what you believe about yourself, people, whatever, is produced by an experience. So you have experiences, painful, pleasure, whatever, that make you believe something, shape your thoughts and feelings, your decisions and all actions. So I've got this realm of what we really do. And so what Owen's talking about and what I'll do is I'll often get them to have uncertainty about their own decision-making process. And I might say, do you think that your current success, your mindset, and the way you've made decisions, do you think that's had any impact on your income? I say, yeah. So what I see you doing is going to the same process of decision that's got you exactly where you are. Are you on this call so you can stay exactly where you are? Because if you want to become more, if you want to have more, we have a process for that. We can train you for that. However, you want to stay exactly where you are, no training required. Stay there in the problems you just told me you have. But is that what you want? No. And so we can loop them back around. And so there's these clarities. Oh, so the one though, doubt, the buying pocket. Some people overconfident. They think they can get there on their own. Some people I might say, what are your financial goals? I'm making 2K a month. I want to make 3K a month. I need to expand the gap and I need to get them to doubt their doubts. And so I need to boost this person's confidence. I say, look, you're making it more difficult than it is. Other people making way more, and then I'll get them to have a bigger goal. And so I need to bump up their confidence because they need to believe not just in me or the world or money, they need to believe in themselves. And some people aren't achieving because they don't believe in themselves. However, some people believe in themselves way too much. Like, yeah, I'm gonna get there on my own. And I say, okay, I understand. However, why do you think it's taken you so long to get here? How long have you been in business? Okay, before we talked today, were you even out there looking for a solution? How did that work for you? Has it worked for other people? Why didn't it work for you? How much do you think it's cost you to be at that level? Are there other people ahead of you? Okay, and so we'll get into it and we'll do math and we'll get numbers and they will tell me exactly what it's cost them to have their mindset and their current patterns of action. So I'll attach a lot of pain to it and consequence. And so I'm gonna push them down in their confidence or I'm gonna build them up in their confidence based on where they are in the buying pocket. Because if you're getting objections at the end, you need to tune your sensory acuity to recognize the objections and handle them before that monster grows, that baby grows into a monster. And so there's these 10 clarities.
And by the way, notice here that you're going off of what works, right? So again, when someone's like, oh, I got this, and you know they're wrong, your instincts are gonna be to get into an argument, to start shaking them and saying, what are you saying? But what you've got to do instead is just calmly. It's like, you ever heard of white knighting, where you'll go to the club and then some guy's like, that guy's a player and did it, and all that kind of stuff. He's doing that because he thinks it works. But in reality, what works is having fun, being status, playing with the validation, having somewhere cool to go. That's what actually works. But the white knight doesn't understand that. And so they go with their emotion and they go with just sort of what comes naturally to them because they haven't been trained properly. And they start saying that you're a player or you're a jerk. You'll see that in marketing or even on YouTube where people say, I'm the best, everyone else sucks. Like, I'm the best, everyone else sucks because they don't know marketing. They've never learned it. And so their default marketing is like, I'm the best. Everyone else sucks, I'm the best one. Look. And then they start self-qualifying, right? What do you know about dating? Just yell, I'm the best, self-qualifying and saying everyone else is a player or sucks. That doesn't work. And so they're stuck in this loop of, and they believe what they're saying and they might even have good intentions by it. They're trying to, shake the person into making a purchase. But what happens, they go in this weird reality where no one wants to date them or no one wants to buy from them. And then they start amplifying that. That guy's a player. I'm the best. Everyone sucks. I'm good. You're stupid, right? And they're going off of instinct because they don't understand marketing. It's called white knighting, right? If you're just sitting there having fun and you see a white knight, you don't even need to respond to a white knight because you know that they're in the process of blowing themselves out and alienating everybody, right? Or if I'm marketing and I see somebody else, say in my same space and they're going about that same process, they don't understand marketing. And while my business is doing 8 figures a year, they're probably stuck somewhere around 6 figures, if even that, frankly. So, you've got to understand the actual way that things work and resist the urge to just flip out. resist the urge to go off instinct. The last one would be like, say, conflict resolution, right? You want to come in and say, I don't like what happened. I'm mad. And it's not actually resolving the conflict. It's doing literally nothing. Instead, we learn things like crucial conversations, seek first to understand, then to be understood, and all these other tools. So when he's saying tools of persuasion and influence, what he's showing you is the proper field-tested and proven, battle-tested, battle-proven ways of going about it that actually work, rather than just going off of your default or off of your instinct. It's what works. It's about results.
Awesome. And so we do these 10...
And lastly, to be super dick and interrupt you one last time, what do our parents do and what do most of our friends do? They do the first one. You're a dick. I don't trust you. That person's bad. Let's crap talk them. I'm the best. They suck. That's how they talk. So we're actually trained to communicate like that. It takes conscious education and training to get out of that. But when you do, you're sitting here with over $200 million in sales. We're probably at somewhere around $250 million collectively. Think about that. You're sitting at $250 million. Doesn't mean we kept that. We didn't at all. But we've moved that in product move around $250 million on this stage. Not by us going like, we're awesome. That sucks. Ah! Right? We did it by just doing the thing that works. That's what we're here trying to show you.
Awesome. Yeah. So thank you.
And by the way, that's just the money metric. There's other metrics we could get into too. But we'll keep that. But you see my point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just for time constraints, I'm going to blaze through this to be respectful of everybody else is speaking. After you get out of these clarities, you want to have a bit of a transition phase. And it's interesting, the mindset. When presenters present on stage, often I'll see them and they do this amazing presentation. They connect. They have all these stories, connect with the audience. And it comes time to present and to sell something. They start speeding up. They get all nervous. They get all tight. There's a tightness. And so some of it's a mindset, a physiology that we need to condition, but also having clarity in the structure and the steps and how to re-engage people and really realign them. And it could sound something like this. Hey, John, we, pretty much gone over everything I need to. It sounds like you're having this, and because of that, it's making you feel. I can walk you through how our process can possibly help you. I can walk you through the steps A to Z, but you let me know, where do you want to go from here? What do you think they always say? Let me know. So they're asking me for the offer. Did you guys hear it? I'm gonna say it again. I can walk you through the steps, A to Z, of how you can get more money, dating, whatever it is you want. But you let me know, where do you want to go from here? And they always say, please let me know. So before I make an offer to somebody, and I never make an offer that isn't asked for, do you think it's easier to sell somebody if you're shoving it down their throat versus them asking you for it? And by the time I get to my close, they've asked me for it several times. So you guys see the power in this, yeah? And so it's a framework. And just for time's sake, I'm going to go through this. Presentation, high-level promise. We have a this that can get you from here to there in this amount of time. Here's the pillars, steps, phases, and here's how it's delivered. Pretty basic, but you want to nail that to remove any uncertainty or lack of clarity. And I will use their language. Hey, you know how you said this? Well, that's why I have a this that can help you with that. Can you see how that might be able to possibly help you? And they say, oh yeah, I think so. Okay, well, why do you think that it could? Well, I guess I'd be able to this, and I'd be able to this, and I'd have this, and to make that a lot easier. Okay, what makes you say that? And they're persuading themselves the entire time inside of the presentation, inside of their seeing. They're starting to think about how what I have for them can actually help them, and they're starting to own it because it's in their mind. And so there's a commitment phrase, or an offer phase, commitment phrase. We temp check. It could sound something like this. Everything we've gone over here, I know we haven't talked about the investment yet, but how do you feel about the process? Could this actually help you? Okay, why do you think that it could? Scale of 1 to 10. 10 means you like it. 1 means this is the worst piece of shit in the world. How do you feel about the process? 8, 9, 10. Well, that's pretty high. Why so high? 5, 6, 7. That's kind of in the middle. Why so in the middle? 1 through 4 I've never gotten, but I'd say that's pretty low. Why so low? So we talk about it. And I'm going to remove, based on their tonality, I'm going to remove a lot of the objections here and get them really anchored into what it would mean for them. For example, with my offer, we teach people the mindset, the sales structure, how to create customers offers, and we talk about how to follow up with people. And I say, look, how much is your offer? People say, it's $5,000. So how many calls a month are you getting? What percentage have you closed? Okay, so if you use my follow-up program that we're going to give you inside, you have a 5K program, on average you get 2 extra sales a week. That's 40K a month. Or no, yeah, 40K a month. For a year, what would that be? They're like, oh, about $500,000. Okay. So also something called price anchoring, price marinade. When I tell people the price, like 10 grand, They're going to think that's expensive, but expensive compared to what? They just got done telling me one part of my program is worth 500 grand to them. So they're going to juxtapose it. They're going to compare it to the number they just told me. So that's inside the offer. So it's a syntax. So long story short, we take them through, give them the investment, and there are some objections. And sometimes we miss the clarity, sometimes logistical uncertainty, but we have a different process for handling all of it. And if you really want to get your sales, anybody, I tell anybody can double their income. Anybody can double their sales. Anybody can become more influential if they know the steps. These are the steps. And this is from a young man that I mentor. And after I started coaching him for a few months, this is something that he said. And his name's Temple. He's an awesome guy. He said to me, he sent this. He says, "Call I just had an hour ago. I'm about 20 minutes into the call, and I hear the guy say, yeah, I feel all I need to do is install this organic strategy I already have, and I'll be able to fix my appointment setting issue." What he was doing right there is letting you know he has an open door. Average salesperson would brush over this and continue trying to sell, but we didn't join this game to be average. So I brought up what he just said as a concern to me. So right there, I could say, "Owen, do you want to do this?" "Well, I'm going to do all these things." Say, "Owen, the fact that you just said this, that's a concern to me." And I let it pause. And he's going to start explaining himself. And I'm going to ask questions, and we're going to pull it apart, and I'll link it to his identity. So I brought up what he said as a concern to me, and still doubt in his process. Hey, and organic is great, but how long can you hold off revenue-wise until that kicks off? Played with identities as far as who he wants to be, asking him which person he wants to be, and lastly, told stories he could relate to. 15-minute, 20-minute process, but in story, he got the sale. If he didn't handle that objection before it came up, he would have got that at the end, because the person started asking about the program. A lot of people think, that's good, they're asking me about the program. But he had already planted the seed of doubt where he gave himself an out. People are going to give you outs all the time. You got to recognize them and close those doors before they have the out. Last thing I want to share with you is just this, and then I'm done. How do you expand your level of influence? That was really this is about. This is a principle that's just been kind of indoctrinated me over the years, and it's the essence of what I really wanted to get out of this presentation beyond anything else. It's that life, and please write this down, life supports that which supports life. Now, I work in self-development. People want to be self-confident, make income for themselves, have self-respect, be self-actualized. But the challenge with all this self-actualization, self-confidence, self-empowerment, all that, it's all about who? It's all about yourself. And whenever you're communicating with another person or a group of people, if you make it all about you, people feel that. If you're communicating with somebody in the context of sales and you're there for you in this relationship, does the other person feel that, yes or no? And it makes you less influential, no matter how self-empowered and self-skilled that you are. And so this principle that's been instilled in me over the years is this: life supports that what supports life. And so maybe some of you are here might have kids, maybe like Owen, and you've had times, maybe you're in work and it's just all about you, and you're a young guy and you're doing things and you're like, you know what? I could go to work today, but today I don't feel like it. I got money, I take care of myself, I don't need to, and so you don't go. But say you have a family or you have a business, and you don't want to go to work, you're hurting or whatever, you're tired, but you show up not for yourself, you show up for your family. And when he shows up for his family, more of you shows up. When you show up for something that's bigger than you, more of you show up and you expand. When you show up for your community, when you show up for humanity. When you look at the Gandhis, Mother Teresa's, Martin Luther King, they didn't just show up for themselves in that moment, they showed up for humanity, and their words transcend time and space, and that's why we still remember their name. And so the height of the pinnacle, how deep and how far and how long our presence will be felt, will be based upon the depth of the presence and the influence within ourselves, but it can't be about ourselves. And so to really get outside of ourselves and connect with something bigger, that's ultimately what I wanted to share. And I just wanted to say thank you so much. I've had such a good time. Awesome. Thank you.